Guess what book she's finally reading? Hi, hello, welcome. If you're new to my channel, I have owned this book for over a year now. I know that's not that long in the grand scheme of things. Lots of people own books on their shelves for much longer, but I've been talking about how much I've been wanting to read this book ever since I did my try a chapter tag last year at this time, and I still haven't picked it up. So I'm picking it up and we're gonna discuss things, right? That's the whole point of my channel. So I actually am about 80 pages into the book currently because I wanted to be able to get a grasp of the book and the world and just have a few things to say to you all when I'm trying to explain what this book is about. I don't know right now if this will be spoiler free or spoilery, but I will mark it as such once I have decided said thing. The Thousand Deaths of Ardor Benn is a high epic adult fantasy trilogy. I own all three books. Hold up. I own all three books because last year when I tried a chapter of this book, I fell in love and I really enjoyed it. And I had fully planned on reading all three of them last December in 1 week and having it be like a really fun challenge. Things went south because of stuff that happened at work. I wasn't able to take the time off. I was planning on taking a whole week off of work and I wasn't able to do that. So I think I've been putting pressure on myself that once I start, I need to just keep reading these and I just don't have the time for them. So I started the first one with no idea when I'm going to be starting the next two. I'm enjoying myself. So let's get talking about what this book is about. This is following our main character, Ardor Benn, although it is multiple POVs and I'm very, very excited about that. I'll get into that a little bit more later. And he is a con artist. He likes to steal things in a really fun, interesting, thought-provoking way. He doesn't just steal to steal. He steals because he enjoys thinking through the challenge of it. And he is approached by a man one day who wants him to steal the crown from the king. And there's a whole entire reason behind that, and I'll get into it in just a second. Actually, right now. So in this world, there is, I wouldn't even call it magic, but there are substances that people can use that allow them to do magical-like things, and they call them grit. Now, grit is created by feeding dragons certain elements, and they quite literally collect the dragon's shit and turn it into this grit. So the problem is, I forget how long ago, but in the past in this book, the last male dragon was killed off because he was a nuisance, and so whatever dragons they have left are all that will ever be, and there are no more dragons surviving. They're very limited on what they can get and what they can use, and grit is kind of becoming more extinct, and there are certain types that have already gone extinct. Now, our main character is hired to steal the crown because there's a certain type of grit that can only be created by using dragons' shell, like the egg, the shells, and I think the dragon has to eat the shell and then it creates a certain type of grit. Now, the only dragon egg left that can be used for that many, many years ago was turned into the crown for the king. So that's why Ardor Benn needs to steal it. All of that is kind of backstory. You learn it really quickly in the first 50 pages. I'm at the part where Ardor is collecting his team. So we are definitely going to get some found family, a group of people coming together to steal some things. I'm really enjoying it and I'm finding myself interested to keep going, especially with the fact that it is multiple POVs. Ardor Benn reminds me very much so of a white man's fantasy, which, you know what? He is. He quite literally is. Think along the veins of Scott Lynch's The Lies of Locke Lamora, where you've got a main character who thinks he can do no wrong, thinks he is God's gift to everyone, thinks that he is fantastic. Now, the thing is, I was very annoyed by Locke Lamora. I know that I sit in a very minute crowd, but he drives me insane because I felt like there was no actual proof that Locke Lamora could do the things that he was bragging about. Now, with Ardor Benn, while I'm not absolutely in love with him, I will say he interests me, but he's just a little bit too cocky for my personal taste. He does back up his claims, and I have seen already on page 80 multiple times where he has outsmarted, outthought, outdone people, and he has used his intelligence to his advantage. He is very funny, he likes to crack jokes, he likes to mess around, he likes to hang out with his friends and drink ale. I like some of our side characters a lot more than him. We've already been introduced to 3 side characters: the man who is hiring him to do this event, this other man that Ardor Benn works with exclusively in order to accomplish a lot of his con jobs, and then where I'm at, we have just met a thief that Ardor Benn has not met up to this point, but it has been indicated that she is going to also be hired for the job. There's lots of really cool races, and religion takes a really large role in this story, and what's awesome is it feels like a unique religion that not only has affected the world and the world building, but is very separate from religion that you see here in our actual age. It is so vast, and there are more than one religions, and they fight with each other and they align with each other, and different cultures have different beliefs about different things. There are these whole entire creatures in this book. I'm not gonna remember their names, but they have these blue skin and they have these vibrating eyes that when they actually see, they don't see like how we see. They see basically, it seems like the energy of something. About 700 pages, 730 pages. So I'm gonna be trying to finish this up over the course of a week. You'll be here with me. Good evening. I have officially made it to part 2, which I think is around page 130. So I've read about 50 more pages since I talked to you earlier today. I have a few comments, and honestly, I might forget some of them. My biggest thought right now is, while I'm enjoying the book, our main female, Kira, it's Q-U-A-R-R-A-H, I think, which I'm gonna assume is Kira. She just, I don't love how she's written. I feel like she's taken advantage of a lot, especially by the men in the book. And I don't mean in like a physical, they're taking advantage of her way. I mean like in conversations and in knowledge. They also kind of act like they're better than her at skill sets. And she doesn't stick up for herself or demand better. She kind of just like fumbles into like, oh my goodness, I didn't know these things. I don't know. I'm hoping she grows a little bit, because I'm not vibing with it, and I really like her as a character. Where I'm at, we are gonna have like false identities, so that's something I really love, especially in heists or con books. Our main 2 characters are going to have to dress up and pretend to be noble people, which is major thing I like. So I'm really excited about that. Right now they are kind of in training for said task, and I don't know how much more I'm gonna be able to tell you unless I decide to do some spoilers for this book. The writing's okay. I think there's a lot of info dumps, and the world building is so much that I'm definitely getting lost with some of it, but I'm trying to just stay focused on what I think is important and not worry so much about the fine details of the world, and know that if something is really important, it'll come up again in the future, because there's so many different cultures and religions and languages and customs and holidays and just so many things that I have to learn about that there's like no way I could do it and still be like moving forward at the pace I'm moving, which honest to God is not that fast. I think I'm taking like 2 minutes per page right now. I'm going slower than I like, but it's so that I can digest things as best as possible. I guess with the Kira thing, a lot of people treat Ardor Benn like he is the greatest thing ever, and I did comment earlier on kind of the foiling of his character versus the Lies of Locke-Lamora. It grates on me a little bit, not so much when Ardor thinks of himself, which I think is the reason why I don't hate him, is because when he does think of himself, he does think not so much like he's the best person ever. He's thinking about his mission, but other characters think like, oh my God, he's like the greatest thing ever. Someone said that he had a perfect face. And our main character, like every single time he's like even mentioned, our main female character, every time he's mentioned, she just like blushes furiously. And I'm like, girl. Quickly, actually, before I forget to say the final thing tonight, these chapters are long. That's like a personal taste thing. So I totally understand that complaint is kind of me complaining. They're also like very uneven, which actually I kind of like the unevenness of them, because what I've started to notice is that Ardor Benn's chapters are really long, and it's almost like a reflection of how obsessed he is with himself, or how obsessed the narrator, whoever the narrator is with him, and that they spend so much more time with him than they do with the other characters. But the very first chapter was 35 pages long, and then the chapter after that was, I think it was like 10 or 11 pages. And then the chapter after that was like 20 to 30 pages again. So I just don't personally like long chapters. I see the significance of them here. They tend to drag on for me, and about halfway through, I'm usually getting interrupted by some kind of big world building piece that I don't know its significance to our main heist. I'm officially at page 200 in The Thousand Deaths of Ardor Benn. It's been a few days because I unfortunately took a few days off of reading, but I'm back in it and I'm hoping to accomplish a lot today, and I have some things to say to you all right now. I'm out of breath because I just ran upstairs because I hope you can't hear it, but my washer and dryer are both going downstairs and they are so freaking loud. I am enjoying this book, but I'm not loving this book. I think part of that is because this is Tyler Whiteside's first book that he ever wrote. I'm getting similar vibes to when I read Kingdom of Liars, it's over there, where it feels like a debut to me. It feels like some of the choices weren't necessarily thought out super well, but the story overall is enjoyable. The main character kind of annoys me a little bit, but in a good way. It's a good old time, but it's not necessarily the best thing ever. What are some of my more specific thoughts about this book? I have decided that I will be giving minor spoilers, but nothing super duper spoilery to the main plot or any specifics like that. Just some kind of general things so that I can help you guys understand what I'm talking about. So one of the things I don't like is every few chapters we get a chapter of the man who hired Ardor Benn to do this mission. And he is kind of like a priest, basically does research and prays. He kind of lives in this religious library, and he's working with a religious person from another religion. Okay, these words are bad. His chapters are boring as all hell. They are just there to help build the lore of the world and help you understand kind of where we have gotten to. And I just don't like, because there'll be large sections where he just reads from text, ancient text, and I don't want to read ancient text from real life. So why would I want to read it in my fantasy setting? And then his chapters are just long, and I feel like they could have been a lot shorter. He especially goes on some tangents where I'm like, I'm gonna skim this paragraph because I can't keep reading about these things. I can't keep getting pulled out of the main story that I'm here for, which is the con, the heist, the stuff that's going on over there. Another thing that I have noticed is that while I'm super glad we are getting multiple characters' perspectives, the side characters that we're getting to follow, so basically anyone that's not Ardor Benn, has a weird obsession with him where they keep thinking about him and keep bringing him up. And I do truly believe that that is just because Tyler Whiteside is a debut author and doesn't know necessarily that the way that you bring your focus back to your main character is not having your other characters constantly think about him, because that's not realistic and that's not how things work. Not everyone in this book would be obsessed with this man. This man is not all that great. And then my final complaint, a few chapters ago, we finally started our heist, which is our two characters, Ardor and Kira, breaking into the royal culture. So they kind of went to this event dressed up as these other people, right? And they both had their own secret missions that they were supposed to be doing while they were there. Ardor had to make some connections and drop some hints, and Kira had to poison this one woman. Kira's poisoning of that woman, I think, was done kind of in poor taste, and I feel like it was super unrealistic, and I just didn't like how it was handled. So I'm going to go into that right now. Basically, they find the woman. They were going to poison her drink. The woman is obviously drinking a lot. And so they kind of talk to her for a little bit, and they find out that she just had a child. And the whole entire woman hating her child thing, that was humorous, and I think that that was done well, and I think that that does really reflect kind of how royalty at this time would have treated their children and how they... Anyways, I'm not going to get into all of that. But then Ardor makes a comment about how the woman is too skinny to have just had a child 4 months ago. And the woman takes offense to this, and Kira then comments on, well, you obviously had to skip meals to be this skinny after having a child. You're starving yourself. You should take better care of yourself. And they kind of guilt this woman into eating something. And of course, the poison is in the food. I just don't necessarily like that. Hopefully, without me explaining why that's not a good situation, you understand why that wasn't necessarily like the best thing to do. And I feel like that's something that certain men just don't understand. And it's obvious to me here that that's what that case was. And that's something that feels like something a debut author would do. Okay, I've been reading pretty much all morning, besides I just got up to do some chores and then I realized I need to update you all because I got to part 3. I enjoy when books have parts because it makes it feel like you're going through it quickly or you're like accomplishing something. But I also really enjoy when books have titled parts, but I know that's like a really small, weird preference of mine. I actually really enjoyed that last section since I last talked to you. So I'm on page 290, so I've read 90 pages. There was the one chapter where it was like the priest dude once again, and I was really bored through his chapter, and I actually ended up skim reading it, and I completely understood everything I was supposed to get from it. And everything else, there's just been like a lot of fun and exciting heist/con preparations going on, lots of twists. It's enjoyable. I think that's gonna kind of be my consensus through this entire book though, is like, it's enjoyable, but it's nothing super fantastic. So I don't know if I'm going to be stopping at the next few parts and giving you guys an update, because if I don't really have anything else to say and I don't want to spoil the heists and cons that are going on, the next time we talk might be when I finish this book. It's a few days later and I'm really close to page 500, but I have a quote I need to read to you all right here on page 490. Ard's best friend is talking to his current love interest, which I have some things to say about that. And he's talking about Ard's greatest love before her, right? This is not a spoiler, by the way. Just listen to this line and tell me if it rubs you the same way it rubs me. The best friend describes her as, she was a gorgeous woman sitting by herself, the kind Ard always had to meet. Ardor Benn is that man in a bar. While I have you, let's get a little bit comfortable and talk about a few things that I have started to notice. I would not say that this book has insta-love. It has taken a few months for our main characters to decide that they like each other, and it took them a while to realize it. It just, to me, feels like there's not actually a reason why these two should be falling for each other. It feels like they're on a job, feels like they're on a mission, it feels like they have their goal in sight, and the sides that they're showing to each other doesn't feel like someone that either one of them should be falling in love with, and yet here they are, and it just feels unrealistic and not well developed and not well written. The other thing that I'm really starting to notice about this book is when the author could be writing one word, he instead writes 10. There are whole paragraphs of just excess that is not needed in this book and could have been cut out. And I understand that some of that is world building and some of that is fun, but when you're in the middle of a heist and it takes you, my neighbors, sorry, and it takes you 3 pages to get from the door to like the entryway, that's not fun. You need to be moving a little bit quicker when those kinds of things are going on, and I just am having a hard time staying focused on this book right now and not skimming certain parts. Like when I get to the dialogue, I'm reading everything, but when there are pages, and I'm telling you there are like 10 pages in a row where there is nothing happening except a character sitting and thinking about stuff, I skim read those bits. And that kind of makes me sad because the parts that I'm into, I'm really, really enjoying in this book, but the parts that I'm not into are just boring. They're not necessarily bad, I'm just bored. I think people who like slower books would definitely enjoy this. That is kind of a personal taste for myself. I don't enjoy things being slow, especially when I'm expecting like action to happen. Would I say the characters are written well? Their motivations feel really flat, especially Kira's. Ardor feels more like a complete person, but he feels like a fantasy or a caricature of a completed person. He feels like what this author expects the best man in the world to be, and like kind of fell short a little bit. Kira does not feel like a real person or a real woman or anyone who has their own individual unique thoughts, and I'm getting a little bit tired of her, which is sad because her chapters are my favorite and still are my favorites, but I just want her to have a little bit more of backbone. And maybe she'll develop that as she goes. I'm page 500 out of 730. I don't think she's going to develop it in the last 230 pages. Hi, in case you're new to my channel, I have officially stuck these like rainbow stickers all over my windows. So this is what I look like now. I think it's fantastic. The past few days I have not been feeling well though. I came down with a bad case of vertigo Monday through Wednesday this week. It is currently Thursday. It is Thanksgiving. About to leave to go to my parents' house, and this morning I woke up with a sore throat and a small bit of congestion, and that's not fun. But that's totally fine because I actually just finished The 1,000 Deaths of Ardor Benn, which is now covered in rainbows. Let's back up a little bit. In the third act, I was really bored. I felt like there was a lot of problems. It slowed down the plot. Things were an issue. I really wasn't into the book. And from what I have learned from people who write, if you have a third act problem, you really have a first act problem. And I think I agree with that. I think that the book was like a really good first draft, but it needed to be edited and it needed to be rearranged and it needed to be better thought out because there were so many disjointed sections that didn't really feel like they led from one to another or that they connected super well to each other. And I was slowly losing my interest through most of the book. Now, the last 100 pages were really great. Well, page 650 to page 700 were really great, and then those last like 30 pages were kind of boring to me and I found myself skimming again. But the giant twist, the giant reveal of what the whole entire mission has been about, and it's not what our main characters thought it was about, and the king reveals that it's something different, was fantastic and really good. And I was kind of flickering between giving this book a 2 or a 2.5, and that ending, I'm giving it a 3. I'm giving it a 3-star. I don't know if it was good enough to make me continue on to the next books. I'd be interested in reading them, but I think I would end up skimming a lot of the parts because I want to know what happens to the story, but I don't care about all of the extra nonsense that the author seems to be putting in here that I don't care about. I'm on the fence about book 2 and 3, but I own them and I have them, so if I decide to read them, they're here. If I don't decide to read them, you know, maybe in like another year's time, I'll unhaul them and give them to someone who could really appreciate them and really enjoy them. You've heard all of my thoughts so far. I think a lot of people would really enjoy this book. It just wasn't the perfect one for me. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you're all having a great time, a great day. Stay awesome. That's not my outro. I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.